my desire is to help women and empower them and let them know that even they could learn to become empowered and learn how to cook, learn how to bake, learn how to become independent, go back to school, and give them those skills so that they could start doing something for themselves. And also, I love to decorate. I've been able to do a very, very special designs and trees. My husband has several businesses, and it's gone very well, and I continue doing that. And eventually my desire is also to bring those girls along and have them work with me so they could develop skills, they could have an income, and they could become independent. So they're not going to continue in that codependency because it will not lead them to be their best version. I think the best way is for them to learn these tools so they could be empowered and they could bloom and be on their own. You don't need to have a partner. Sometimes that's what women think, that they need to have someone. But if they're their best version and they know that they're beautiful, they could become selective when they learn how to take care of themselves, have a degree, have something, then they'll be selective on which is a right guy, which one is the one that they should stay with, someone that has something to offer them. And what I mean by offering them, someone that is also doing something for themselves, someone that is going to school, someone that is, I've never been the kind that I see, I've never been about money. What are they working on? What are they doing for themselves? Are they going to school? Are they the ones that are trying to reach a goal, dreams? That's the kind of person that I am. That for me, that's what really matters in life.
Everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, author podcast featuring great authors from around the world. And today we have a great author joining us as well. Analee is here. We're going to be going through her website. She's got some great stuff. She's got some, if you're hungry for a good book, hey, Analee's the one that can help you with that. We're going to talk a little bit of cooking, a little bit of everything here in our conversation today. And Analee, welcome to Living the Next Chapter.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me here today. Yes, it's actually cooking, decorating. It's actually the love of the kitchen, but it's actually a book called A Legacy of Love, and it's my mother's story, but the love that she had for Christ and the love that she had for the neighbor, and all coming together as we are in Christ. We all come together with our Father God.
Amazing. Okay, so let's start with where you are in this big world of ours for the people listening, Analee.
Well, I actually live here in Dallas, and I'm originally from California, and I'm first generation born here, and my parents are from Mexico. My mother passed away in 88 due to placenta previa, but her heritage and the mix that we're French, Spaniard. She was born in Mexico with my dad, and I'm first generation born here.
Wow. Excellent. Well, it's good to have you with us. This is great. For you as an author, I like to start go back to the beginning for you. There was a point in time when being an author was maybe a dream, but here you are. You're an author today, and so the dreams come true. What was it like for you at the beginning stages of your writing career and becoming an author? We have new authors listening. They're eager and hungry for some advice and some guidance. Tell us about the beginning of your author story.
Yes. First of all, here I have my book, A Legacy of Love, which I have in both languages.
Nice.
A Legacy of Love, Un Legado de Amor, that's in Spanish. And I even have my workbook as well as, to help people heal and dejando un legado de amor and leaving a legacy of love. And it's also 12 chapters as the book has. For me, it was something that I was not planning, and I just want to be very open and honest as I continue sharing my story, my journey. I was actually changing careers at the time. I've always been in the educational field, and I was changing into languages as an interpreter and translator, and getting a certification in the medical field, which I'm always on standby, and probably that's a new thing that you're going to learn from me as well. always on standby, that whenever they need me in the hospitals, I pick up on patients that need my services, and I'm able to go and come as I wish, helping them and being used with my skills as an interpreter and translator, simultaneously as an interpreter and translating documents as well. So I was definitely not expecting this, but God was already using me and letting me know that through the church that I was going back then, that he had a calling for me, and that he was going to use my story to bring people to Christ. But I was not wanting to share my story, and I felt like maybe there was a confusion. Maybe it was someone else. And I was not really wanting to open that area. Why? Because it was very sad. It was very painful. And it was very personal. And that was just okay. They asked my husband and they asked my children, which we have 4. We're a blended family. I have 2 and my husband has 2. But for me, they've always been all my children. I've never played favorites. I believe that that's what God creates, families to come together. I don't believe in division. So when they called us up, that was the first experience that I had. Then when COVID comes, that was 2020, February, March, God was already telling me, I'm not going to let you go. And that was the next true experience that we had during COVID. We were sitting at home watching church. And he said, if every believer would stop being that true Christian believer would stop being in that little baby pool and would go into the ocean, which you already know how to swim, why don't you go and share your story? Many people would come to Christ, and there would be a lot of transformation, and people would share their testimony, and things would change. That's when I knew, oh, wow, it's not going to stop till I surrender. So that's when I started writing. And I'm like, first of all, once again, I have to be humble for those people that are interested in writing a book. I had never done this before. This was not my area. And I was, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to start this book? And then I sat there, I said, well, Lord, if you're telling me that you're going to help me, that you're going to guide me through this process, it's because you will. So I started writing. And as I was writing, how do I start? Should I start from the beginning of my story till now? Should I start? How do I start? So I started writing. And yes, I started as my story, how it started. I had a very normal childhood. I had a very loving mother that loved Christ. But after she passes, that's when everything was so horrible. I had very abusive grandparents, and I was raised by them, and they're my mom's parents. I was in an arranged marriage. They actually arranged it for me against my will. I ended up going out of the country, which is my parents' country, but it was not my will. I love Mexico, but that was not my design. That was not what I wanted. So I go through so many things, adversities. I lose my first unborn child, 5 months along unborn, and I lose my mother. I go through so many things. Difficult mother-in-law. I had a horrible time becoming pregnant. I go through fertility tests and so many things. It was very painful, by the way. So I go through so many things. I know what abuse is. I definitely connect with women that have been trafficked because being in an arranged marriage against your will, even though it was just one person, I definitely understand. I'm like, Lord, you're asking me to do this, but I'm going to write this book. It's very personal. So I started writing and writing and writing. And where do I start? Should I write it in English? Should I write it first in Spanish? Well, I guess I was still kind of not wanting to write the book. So I started writing in Spanish, and my husband said, what? And I said, well, let me just feel comfortable with one, and then I'm going to do it also in the other. He says, I want you to do it in both. As soon as you're done with one, and then I'm gonna go. Then you do it in the other one, and then I cannot definitely. You're going to have to find someone that's going to edit your work, because everyone that's an author, not because you're an author means that you're not going to be needing someone to go and edit your work. I learned a lot. And in the process, I'm very glad that I've always been very humble, very easy. I don't have a problem with that, and trying to go and reach out to a professional, which I did. And I said, this is my work. Obviously, he could not help me with the Spanish. So I reached out also with a professional in Spanish, and she just checked my work. She edited that part, and then accents and the ñes, and that's a different language in Spanish. Then the English, I shared that with my husband. He looked at it. He says, well, it looks great. I will look into, mistakes and all. Then he said, I'm going to send you with a professional that we know. That's what he does for a living, Analee. And I said, wonderful. I was still like, Lord, this is what you want me to do. Okay, here I am. He will tell you, Analee, if your book, first of all, even though this is what the Lord has asked you to do, I don't doubt that this is what God has in store for you. And I heard it from the pastor with you, Analee. But we want to make sure that this is going to be the right path. Maybe God wants you just to have a testimony. When he actually started reading what I had done and my work and all, he said, most definitely. I've never heard of such story. There is just so much to offer. You have gone through so many things. And this is a very inspiring story, Analee. Yes. What we will have to work on, that you are being extremely challenged with, it's a challenge for you, is to open your heart. You don't want to share the pain that all this caused in you, which is very normal for an author. When you are writing, it took a toll on me, and I have to share that. I have to admit it. As I was writing, I would go and cry a lot in the evenings. And the person that invested a lot of time, which we were very grateful, he said, I know, I need you to work harder. I need you to tell me more. I didn't want to share more because it was very painful. I was actually going back to that season. I was actually having flashes of the time period that my grandfather was extremely abusive. He was physically abusive. You see, so I was having flashes of the time period when I was in high school. That's a time in the season when my mother passes away. I was having flashes when they took away my high school boyfriend, and which I had dreamed that someday, somehow, I would have a normal life, which I lost a lot of years of my life, which I'm blessed that God overly blessed me now, and my life did not end in despair. That's why my book is extremely inspiring and will help a lot of people that are dealing with so many things, loss and confusion, and why me, and so many other things, being between life and death several times in my life, being with gallbladder complications, and being between losing a child and with an unborn child. My life was also on the line. So my book has so much to offer, but it was painful to write about the feelings, about the pain, about the sorrow, about loss. So I had to go deeper. And that's where I was extremely blessed. And I'm glad that my persona was so good about, it's okay, even though I don't know about this area, God has sent me to do this. And if he's sending me to do this, is that he's going to help me through this. There will be someone that will be willing to help, which it went great. And he explained what needed to be adjusted. And my book has been very empowering for people that have read it. On Amazon, you could see 5 stars, because of what is being shared. I'm being extremely open and my experiences with my family, and God is opening doors. But for authors that have never written a book, it's okay. It's just fine to find that additional support, have someone guide you through the process, and allow yourself that grace and know that it is okay to get some help, to have that assistance. Why? Because if you've never done it before, if you've never had that, then you do as best as you possibly can. And it's always good for you to go with someone that is a professional in the area to get that extra guidance. I'm an interpreter, translator. I've been a teacher, and even in the medical field. And if someone comes to me that needs help in this area, I'm more than happy to help them. It's the same thing with an author, someone that has been doing this for many, many years. It's good to receive that extra wisdom and guidance. And why not?
Right.
Why not receive that guidance?
Yeah.
That's what I would advise.
Wow. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about your mother. Tell me more about her. As we read the book, I'd like to get some insight about her as well. Could you tell us some more about her?
Well, my mother was a lady that worked for General Motors in Mexico. It's more of the north part of Mexico, crossing the border, and Ramos Arizpe, Coahuila. And she loved languages. It's very interesting that I ended up in the same field. And I would always watch her. She worked for them, a company, and she loved the neighbor. She loved, and if someone was hurting, she took it personal. If someone was in need, she would always say that if we are blessed, that we are called to bless our neighbor. And she would always take that to heart. So there was and I share that in my book, there was a horrible earthquake in 1985 in Mexico City. A lot of people died. Well, she decided to stay and work extra hours and to see if there was a way to rescue more people. And she stayed extra hours. And back in the day, there was this machine called telex. And it was a way to send and communicate and find ways of communication from one place to the other and find and see if there was more survivors. So she stayed longer, and she was trying to see if there was more survivors. So she was willing to sacrifice time to be with us, which at that time we were with our grandparents. And she said, no, I need to stay. I need to see if there's children that could be saved because they need. I want to be that help. It could be one of my kids. It could be, one of my relatives. And I think that is our mission in life. So she took it to heart if she knew that someone was in need. And I think that was something that I saw at a very young age, and it became something meaningful to us. And I adopted a lot of her behaviors. And she was very kind. She loved the kitchen, and she loved animals. And I share that, how much she loved her animals, that she would always go to the market and make sure that those extra cuts that are left on the meat and bones and all, and with some rice. She would make these special stools with tortillas, and for her dogs. And we had all kinds of animals, and she was all devoted. It was about work, her children, and her animals. I became the same way. That's who I am. Now we have 7 animals here in our house, and it's because of what I saw in her, that she loved animals. So, and the love for the kitchen. I remember sitting on a stool and spending time with her. And I share that. And I did not know how to say quesadillas, which quesadillas is like a flour tortilla. It could be a flour or a corn tortilla stuffed with mozzarella cheese or any kind of cheese. And it's melted cheese. So I remember sitting on a stool, and mainly I would love to sit there and watch her and help her do flour tortillas. Who does not love flour tortillas? And cooking and baking together. She was extremely talented in the cooking and in baking. So I wanted to be like my mother, which that's why I'm able to do things in the kitchen and bake and cook. So I would sit on a stool and watch her, and I would do the dough with her, work on the dough and extend the tortillas. And I could not say quesadillas, so I would say, I want a pesadilla. That means little nightmares, the translation to English. So and my mom would always remind me, what is it that you want? And I would say, pesadillas. No, Analee, it's quesadillas. So she would always laugh with me. The kitchen time was more of a fun time. She would advise me, make sure you wash your hands, make sure you wear an apron, make sure you put your hair back. And remember the process in the kitchen. You're always watching the stove. Make sure you're always watching the oven. You always watch that. There's no distractions, because a distraction could cause, something major. So when I'm in the kitchen, it brings extremely wonderful memories. I share in my book that if I would become as good as my mother in the kitchen, she would eventually come and spend Christmas or Thanksgiving or maybe her birthday. It did never happen. It allowed me to become better in the kitchen, but definitely I still now miss her, and it's very normal to miss those loved ones. But knowing that there is hope in Christ, and knowing that we're here, but eventually we will be with them again. And what she taught me of the Lord, she planted that seed. That for me, that's the most amazing gift she gave me, of seeking the Lord and to never give up on your dreams. She would say, never give up on your dreams. There was this amazing event in General Motors, and I love to sing. And she said, I'm going to take you if you want to do that, but there's going to be a lot of people. Everyone was up in their upper 20s, 30s. I was the youngest little girl that was there that day. And everyone stepped up. They did their singing. I went up. I did my singing. She said, there's too many people, Analee, 350 and up. I don't know if we're going to win. I'm your number one fan, Analee. And for me, you already did it. You made it. But, we don't know how it's going to go. But let's just go home. And I'm right there. I think you did fantastic. And I said, okay, Mom. And we left. The next morning, they call her up from her office and they said, Alma, my mom's name was Alma Rosa. That means a pink, a rose. Her soul was pink as a rose. And they call her up and they said, your daughter, why did you all leave? Your daughter won the first prize. And we gave her the prize. Oh my gosh, did she? Yes. So she said, I'm going to have to call her when she gets home from school. Back in the day, there was only those home phones.
Yeah.
There was no, so I had to wait to get home from school. So she calls home. She says, Analee, you want the basket full of, pantry food and everything, and also money. I was so excited. I said, wow, I don't know how much money it was. It did not matter. But to know that my mother was supporting me and to know that she was my number one fan all the time. And she told me, she says, you know what? I don't want you to feel, disappointed and that we stay and you feel sad. I want you to feel happy. Let's just leave. For me, you already won first prize. My mom was a very special human being. And to know that I formed part of her legacy is just amazing. And I could say that when we have those amazing human beings in our life, they deserve to be honored. And the way that I honor her is with this book and making sure that I carry on her legacy every day.
I love it. And then when I look at the book, too, the cover is beautiful. Can you tell us more about the cover of A Legacy of Love?
Yes, actually, The Legacy of Love, it took me a while. And my cookbook actually is the same. It's now me, myself. But this is my mother. And this is her. Yeah. And there's a lot of resemblance. Yeah. And me as a little baby girl. But that's her. And we wanted it to look very special because that's who she is, a very beautiful human being in painting. So that's how it looks. If you look at the book, it's a painting of her. And I had that picture and we looked at it and we looked. And I said, I love that picture. So we work with someone and my husband said, you know what? We need to have her done kind of like a finish and painting, which I love the colors. They look more like a very fine touch, kind of like pastel, a mix. And you could definitely see me as she's holding me. And it says, finding the courage to finally speak out. And it's a legacy of love. I kept very quiet in silence all my life. But somehow God wanted me to speak out. And I think it's mainly to give a voice to those people, to ladies, to men, to children that have gone through so many things, and giving them a voice and letting them know that it is well, and letting them know that God loves them and that God has an amazing purpose for them. And I was extremely blessed to have had a mother that's planted that seed of Christ. And I would love to leave that message as well for your audience, that if you have that opportunity of having that relationship with Christ, He will not do you wrong. Look where I'm at right now. It's been baby steps, but God has been extremely, extremely amazing with me. I am extremely overly blessed in so many areas. And my life did not end in despair. My life has been, I've gone and done so many things, but it's been because of God. And it's been because of that amazing woman that she definitely, at a young age that I lost her, I was going to be 15. She taught me so much. And my husband says that when I was born, I was already ready to tackle the world. It's going to make you laugh when I tell you this, but he says that I was ready to learn so well that when I was born, I told the doctor, I said, listen, you got to cut me. You got to break me loose here from the umbilical cord. And I'm ready here with a pen and pencil to tackle the world. I'm ready to learn and I'm ready. I'm just ready to learn. And you've always been that kind of person that's willing to learn. And it does not matter. You're humble. You're wanting to learn and wanting to figure out things. And that's what it should be about. Growing together, being very inquisitive, wanting to know more about what's around you, what God has in store. And as I said, my book, it was baby steps. And I don't have a problem with sharing that. Yeah.
Okay, so take us back to the day when the doorbell rings, the knock at the door, and there's a box, and your very first copy of your book is there. The first time you're holding it, you have it there with you now, but that first copy, what did that feel like for you to open that and hold it for the very first time? I want to encourage an author that is writing that one day they're going to do this, and to value that moment because it's really special. What was going through your mind?
Well, first of all, I knew when it was already on its way. I was doing actually videos, which I'm doing a lot of all this with the book. How did it feel? It made me cry, which I'm holding myself not to cry because I've always been very sensitive. And when I saw the book, as you know, first they send a book as it's a template, but it's still a book where it says it's not for sale, and it has like a little line in between.
Yeah.
But still, it meant so much for me because it's my own legacy. This is my own legacy. But at the same time, most of all that, knowing that I'm carrying the Lord in a very higher level. And I know that we're all in a different place, regardless if we are believers or not. I hope that we are. But knowing that we all have a purpose behind the book, why we're doing this, but this is it. You've worked so hard to be able to work and have this as a copy. It took me a full year, and I worked hard in both languages, not one. And it was day and night and making sure that the mistakes and looking through. The first thing I did, I loved when I saw the finish of my book. It's beautiful. I invested the time in making sure that it was what I wanted. I think that an author that sees that they're receiving what they were working on, oh my gosh, it's such an accomplishment. It's such a blessing. It's the fruits of your work. And seeing that come together, it made me cry. When I saw I was like, oh my gosh, I held it and I put it close to my heart. And this is my mother. I'm like, it had so much meaning to me in so many different levels. It's like, this is for the Lord. It's my mother's legacy, and it's for God. Everything meant just so much. And of course, it made me cry. And I'm like, yes, that's what I said. I cried. And then I said, yes, this is it. Everything was just perfect. I still look through inside because it has a lot of pictures of my mother. It has pictures of myself as I was growing up. It has pictures of my parents. It's like pictures after I went through so many things, adversities. Finally, God bless me. I got remarried. My dad dancing with me on my wedding day, and I was in tears. And walking out of the reception, obviously we had the church ceremony and then the reception and then leaving. And eventually we end up leaving in his convertible, which he has a Corvette, the Z06, and a brand new one, which that's the Cinderella story. I was not expecting that, which I share what happens in the story, what happens, who I marry, and all that. It was just, thank you, Lord Jesus. I share about my animals. It's my book, holding my book meant, wow. I'm like speechless. It's hard to put in words how much of an accomplishment it means to have your book and to know that the reasons behind an author, a first time a writer, author doing this, that now you have the fruits of your work and that it's there and that you invested all that time and it was a well investment. It was worth it. That this is it. This is yours. And that no one could take this work away from you. You're leaving your own legacy. You see, you're leaving a mark for your family, the family of your family, your children, your grandchildren, that they could always go back and say, you know what? My mom, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, she wrote a book about her adversities, her challenges, And I want to read that book. That book is going to help me. Wow.
Yeah.
And to know that that book is also, most of all, it's honoring God, and it shares about my mother.
It's great.
And I have to share a little bit because it's going to touch you. This book, I have to. That's going to tell you how much of it is a very special book. And I think that when you see this, you're going to understand. I'm going to read it and you're going to picture. We must encourage every soul traveling this path we call life, because as we often see, it can be a brutal journey. I believe that no one greater exists. There is no one more powerful and none more able and willing to help us than God. I have found him to be faithful and true. He is present in the middle of life's deepest storms and always near the brokenhearted. He is the only one who can mend a broken heart. He will mend your broken heart.
Beautiful.
Yes, that's my heart. And that's part of this book. It is a book that if you have it, it will be a book that you will always want to go back and read again. It's the kind of book that you will always want to keep in the shelf. And when you have those difficult moments or when you have those great moments, it will lift you, it will guide you, it will help you. And that's what I hope that this audience that you have could see, that if they're going to write a book as an author, pouring in could definitely leave an amazing legacy for their loved ones, and the next generations, their grandkids and the great grandkids. It is worth writing a book, which I already have 6, 3 in English, 3 in Spanish, and I'm working on 2 more. So they're going to be 8. And I was just not even planning it. And I'm already with about to have 8.
Wow.
Because obviously it's double because it's 2 languages. So yes. So it's God that has been doing this, not me. I'm just a tool.
Yeah. I love it. And what kind of response are you hearing back, Analee, about the book? What are people saying back to you that makes your heart happy?
You know what? I have been receiving people. When I had my book, I had several parties of the book, and people took the book and read the book. They tell me this over and over. Analee, so many girls will benefit from this. Even men will benefit if they're in a relationship or with loss. Your book has so much to offer, and most definitely with your workbook, tools of forgiveness, how to come closer to Christ. It has just so much to offer. Wow. I have enjoyed reading your book, and most definitely I want to continue reading it in seasons that I'm needing it. I loved it. And so much that I've had 5-star reviews on Amazon, and you could go and see it, of so much. Wow, you went through so much. There is no question that God was there with you. Wow, I want to congratulate you that you were so willing and open to share things that were just too much. It is amazing that you were able to overcome all that. I love your book. It is so touching. I just could say that it's God, the one that helped. That's my response to them. Another friend of mine, that all these endorsements, because I got a lot of endorsements, she said, a legacy of love for the reader who, despite experiencing pain and suffering, does not allow herself to be defeated, trusts in the will of God, and allows herself to be guided by his love. This has been the life of the book's author, Analee, who now shares her life story and her desire to help others who are going through adversity. Dahlia.
Nice.
That's one of the many. That's what they say. Another one. Analee captures our hearts as she shares how her life has been transformed by God's grace, while communicating the message of God's love for everyone in the entire world. SOS International shares, which is a place that helps women that have been trafficked, shares Analee's passion for seeing at-risk women and children set free from modern-day slavery and equip them to lead whole, healthy, and productive lives. We applaud and recognize the power of telling your story. So many voices like Analee's have been silenced. Wayne and Leslie Wehunt, founders of SOS International.
Nice.
And many people like that.
Nice. It's nice to hear those words, right? Through the journey of writing and telling your story, maybe being a little bit nervous at the beginning of sharing your story because it's very personal. There's a lot of things there that you, again, like even the journey of writing the book, I'm sure that changed you from the beginning of writing to today. You're a different person in the process as well.
You know, it helped me to heal. I think that even though I did take therapy, I didn't even know that there were still layers of places in my heart that I was very willing to forgive my grandparents, but I was always confused. I was very sad. I carried a lot of sadness, which my mother carried the same because she was also in the same mess. She was also in arranged marriage like I was. We both carried that same. Now I understand very much what she went through, which I share in the book. But writing the book and having to really express all the feelings and all the emotions was very, it took me not only there, but it pulled out a lot of the suffering. It created a way of healing. As I was writing that, it allowed me to heal. Believe it or not, yes. It also, in the process, I cried a lot. I suffered a lot. But at the same time, when I was done, it allowed me to heal. If there was an area in me, which I didn't even know, that needed to be healed, I was able to heal. I might have not even known that there was something there that was still pending in my heart. My grandparents took a lot out of me, many years of dreams that were taken away, that were shattered. My dream of going to college, I have to share that with you. When they married me off, I was able to go to college in Mexico, but I did not finish my degree. I finished my degree in my mid-40s, believe it or not. And I ended up receiving a degree in languages, which I always wanted to receive. They ended up taking the person that I loved, and it was a mutual feeling that we both had. I was always very interested in having a spouse that I could learn from him. I was not interested in someone that would not be willing to teach me. I was very fond of someone that was extremely smart because I would be able to learn from him. You see, that's the kind of person that I was always envisioning myself being with, which back in that time, it did happen, but they took all those dreams away. I was not the kind of girl, I was always very well behaved, by the way, very introverted, very quiet, and I love to learn. I never caused a problem, but all those dreams were taken away. So going back to that, it took me there. All that I lost. Because when you go through all that trauma, you kind of talk your brain and you kind of block that because it was just too much. It was too much. So as I'm writing, I didn't have a choice. And I didn't want to talk about feelings because if I would go to the feelings, it was going to open everything up. So I was trying to be as superficial as possible. So when I go with a professional, he said, no, no, and no. So that's when I knew I was being faced with reality and that God wanted me to go there. And maybe it was because he wanted a layer of me to heal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that healing, but at the same time, there's people out there that are going through the things that you had to go through, Analee. And it's not about you. It's about what I'm going to do with your story to bring others to me, to bring them to me. So it was painful, but I was able to heal. But of course, I was being confronted with all the years that I had lost. And was it upsetting? Yes. It was extremely upsetting, extremely hurtful. And I was like, why didn't I have a different personality? Why wasn't I able to stand up for myself? My mom had the same problem. I'm like, it's not my fault. I had to realize that I wanted to blame myself for not being different. And I'm like, there wasn't anything wrong with me. So back, I realized I cannot continue finding ways of blaming. I got to let go, and it is okay. So that's what it allowed me to do. I had to face the reality, but at the same time, knowing that it allowed me to heal and that I cannot change what was taken away from me. But most definitely, God has opened amazing doors and that it is well now and that I have accomplished and I've been extremely blessed because what was taken back then has been multiplied in levels that I would have never imagined, but I was not asking for it. But I think that God gracefully blesses those because he sees our hearts and he sees where we come from.
Yeah.
That's what I could share with you today. And what I take from this story is that my story is a story of hope, faith, courage, and love for God. There's no question.
I love it.
Because I'm very positive. I don't stay in that. I always look for the best, even in the worst scenarios. I always find the very best, what I could learn.
And it shows, Analee, when you're talking and when you're speaking. I hear it in your voice. I hear it in what you say and who you are. And it's a beautiful thing that you can take something that was meant to maybe harm you and harm your future. You've turned it around, sharing it in the book, helping others with the book now as well, and continuing the legacy of your mother and your legacy. It's a great picture all around, Analee. I love this. It's great. I love having on the podcast. I could listen to you all day. This is great. But as far as getting the book, Analee, and your website, can you tell us more about your website and again, where we can purchase our own copy of Legacy of Love?
Well, yes, my website is obviously it's there with you. It's www.Analee Vinyard. So it's ANALEE Vinyard without the E. So it's VINYARD.com. And my website talks about all the desires of my heart of helping and what I am doing right now. And I actually became a certified Christian life coach because I understand definitely the need that there is of helping ladies. And that's the desire that I have of empowering them and letting them know that they could actually make an amazing change in their lives if they recognize that their value is not in their circumstances and their past. It's actually in recognizing that they're daughters and sons of the great I am of God. And I always use an analogy of the butterfly. I would always see myself in a cocoon. That's how I was, in a very dark spot. But knowing that when you start noticing that it is okay not to be okay, and you start recognizing that you need to have this transformation happening in your life, then you start changing and you start empowering yourself and you become this amazing butterfly that changes into and blooms and flies, and don't allow anyone to stop you. Fly as high as you want, and changing into this butterfly with different colors, pinks, purples, your favorite colors, and be your best version and accomplish all your dreams. It is never too late. Look at my story. Look what I have been able to overcome and where I'm at. So that's what I'm hoping and accomplishing with God's help of empowering ladies and bringing them to Christ. That is definitely my desire. I do not overly push that. I'm very respectful. I don't believe, and I do share that in my interviews, I don't believe that it's about a religion. I believe that it's about a relationship with Christ. I'm not a religious person. I'm about a relationship with Christ. That's how I see life. And so that's what I could say. That's my website. My desire is to help women and empower them and let them know that even they could learn to become empowered and learn how to cook, learn how to bake, learn how to become independent, go back to school, and give them those skills so that they could start doing something for themselves. And also, I love to decorate. I've been able to do a very, very special designs and trees. My husband has several businesses, and it's gone very well, and I continue doing that. And eventually my desire is also to bring those girls along and have them work with me so they could develop skills, they could have an income, and they could become independent. So they're not going to continue in that codependency because it will not lead them to be their best version. I think the best way is for them to learn these tools so they could be empowered and they could bloom and be on their own. You don't need to have a partner. Sometimes that's what women think, that they need to have someone. But if they're their best version and they know that they're beautiful, they could become selective when they learn how to take care of themselves, have a degree, have something. Then they'll be selective on which is a right guy, which one is the one that they should stay with, someone that has something to offer them. And what I mean by offering them, someone that is also doing something for themselves, someone that is going to school, someone that is, I've never been the kind that I see, I've never been about money. What are they working on? What are they doing for themselves? Are they going to school? Are they the ones that are trying to reach a goal, dreams? That's the kind of person that I am. Yeah. That for me, that's what really matters in life.
I love it. It's great. Analee, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Again, the book, everyone, is going to be linked in the show notes, linked to Analee's website. I would love for you to reach out to her, buy the book, leave a great review for the book, tell other people about the book, buy a copy and send it to somebody, and share it as well so more people can read and share this. Analee, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. You're a great guest. You're a great guest, Analee.
No, well, thank you. And the book is actually there for sale on my website. Right. It's there, and it's also, if they don't want to buy it there, it's also on Amazon. Whether it's on my website or on Amazon, it's available either or. And thank you for having me. I feel very blessed and honored to be here today. And thank you. And I hope that you have the opportunity to read my book.
I love it. Thank you for making time to do this, Analee. Very good. Again, everyone, all information in the show notes. Analee, thank you so much for being on Living the Next Chapter.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. That's a big signal to all of the players, the YouTubes, the Apples, the Spotifys, that you found value in this episode of Living the Next Chapter. Just by you listening to the end, you just sent a huge bat signal out to the app saying this was a great podcast, a great conversation. So you listening to this point, you've done your job. I have one more ask of you. If you know anyone that would benefit from this conversation, would you share this episode with them? Would you just get on, send them a message, send them the episode, tell them about this episode, tell them to go livinginthенextchapter.com to get all the information about the podcast. Can you do that for me? Because the more people that hear this message, this episode, the better. I want to support these amazing authors, and I know you do as well. So sharing this episode really helps, and I appreciate you. See you on the next episode, and thank you for listening to Living the Next Chapter.